Hello everybody and welcome back to the Stacey West YouTube channel. I'm Ben and I'm here with Dave Salmon, who is the I Follow and Beyond radio commentator for Morecambe. How are you doing, Dave? Are you well?
Very well, thanks, Ben. Good to be back in the warmth after it being a bit cold last night. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no worries at all, man. It's I think we were just discussing off air. We both had slightly off nights last night as we record, but we are, of course, welcoming Morecambe to Sincilbank on Saturday. First round of the FA Cup. It's a nice little break from the league action for the two clubs, and hopefully, we can. I think we're both looking to get back to winning ways. But let's start on Morecambe. Obviously, last time we faced each other was one hell of a game. The last game of was it your last home game of the season?
It was, yeah. It's the penultimate game of the season, yeah.
Yeah, and it was. It was a game that I think the Stacey West remember fondly, at least because it was actually Gary's stag do that day, and it was. I think our season was pretty much wrapped up at that point, but it was a game that offered a lot of hope, which was sadly dashed the following week by the sounds of it. Obviously, you did see the club slide back into League Two at the end of the season. How has it been? How have you guys adjusted? Has there been many wholesale changes? Obviously, there's one big change that we'll come on to, no doubt. But you seem to have had a decent start. So how have you seen the adjustment period so far?
Well, you've had a very decent start, Ben. I think it's arguably, no, actually not even arguably, I think it is definitely beyond anybody's wildest expectations before a ball was kicked. We were in a bit of a predicament in the summer because we didn't know where we were in terms of the ownership. That still hasn't been resolved. It's been going on for more than a year now, and budgets and everything to do with how we were going to fund the playing side of the club going forward, especially going down into League Two, of course, and the money's less in League Two than it is in League One by definition of it being a lower division, I guess. But we found ourselves in a situation where we only had 6 contracted players for the following season.
Yeah.
And because we were that uncertain of our budgets, we had to let everybody who was out of contract go. That included all of our star players, if you will, so Cole Stockton and Connor Ripley and all of our loan players went back as well, because we simply couldn't afford at that moment to offer them any sort of contract. It then partially got resolved in the summer, and there was something of a playing budget formulated, and but it meant that all of the bigger players, the better players, if you will, from the League One campaign, they all went off to pastures new. All the players that have come in are either young loans or they've been signed on a 1-year contract because we don't know what the future holds. So we couldn't offer them anything longer than that. And of course, that means that your pool of players that you can attract is significantly reduced.
Yeah.
If you can only offer a 1-year deal or you can only pay a certain salary, you get who you get. So to get the caliber of players through the door that we have is quite remarkable, really. There's a definite emphasis on youth, trusting in young up-and-coming players, whether that's rough diamonds from other clubs or young players on loan from higher division sides who have got great potential. And we've got 1 or 2 experienced players, of course. You have to have a bit of a mix, but trusting in youth generally. And I think before a ball was kicked, to where we are now, if you'd have said in the end of July you'll have 27 points from 15 games, you'll be in the playoff spots. If we'd have won against Barrow on Tuesday night, we would have gone second. And what a time to have a complete off night, by the way. I mean, I can't comprehend it really, but we're still 6th in the table with a game in hand on everybody above us. And we'd be in the top 3 if we win that. So we're in a great position, far better than I suppose we could ever have possibly imagined. But it's been a really, really good start to the season, yeah.
Excellent stuff. I mean, I think there was a little bit of a perception maybe that Morecambe were kind of always punching above their weight a little bit in League One, and it was, it always seemed you were down, and it almost like a bit of a miracle at the end of each season to sort of see you guys staying up. Pre-season expectations obviously they were quite low. Do you imagine that they can build on what's happening at the moment, maybe bring in a few more bodies in January and bulk the squad out a little bit if that's needed?
We've definitely got a small squad. Probably in terms of number of players, I think we have 22 person first team squad, 2 goalkeepers in that. So that isn't enough to sustain it for the whole season. And I suppose going with youth and a fit, keen, hungry nucleus of players, that's good and it's paying dividends at the moment. But I suppose going forward, we are going to need to get some bodies in January. I don't think anybody apart from right inside the inner workings of the club knows if there's any kind of budget for strengthening in January. We're going to have to get a couple of bodies through the door because we won't be able to last a full 55 game season on what we have, and to rely on teenagers for the whole season, that is going to be quite the ask. Our main central striker's 19, Michael Mellon. The 2 players who play just behind him are both 19 and one is 20. So it's going to be a big ask for them to go the whole campaign without getting injured or a bit of burnout. So we are going to have to strengthen. But what we've got at the moment, Ben, is a great nucleus of keen, hungry players, and we are where we are because that's where we deserve to be, quite frankly. We've played some terrific football over the last month or so. I don't want to big ourselves up too much and then it'll come crashing down on Saturday because the game against Barrow on Tuesday night is a case in point where we just completely had a terrible night at the office. But if we are on our game, we will cause you some problems. We hit on the break with pace on the counter attack, and we're super fit. So so far so good.
Good stuff. I mean, let's carry on with that conversation. And obviously, you're saying you like to hit teams on the break. Do you tend to see a lot more of the ball than other teams, or is it a case of we will let you have the ball, you come and you come and hit us, and we will hit you back on the counter? What formation do you guys play normally? Is it relatively set, or do you switch it up between games?
It's pretty set. We prefer 4-2-3-1.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I imagine that is how we'll probably go on Saturday, which has worked really well for us for the majority of the season. We have at times gone to a back 3, but it doesn't really suit what we're trying to do in that respect. So it'll be 4-2-3-1, I would imagine. So flat back 4, 2 holding midfielders, well, 1 holding and 1 roving a little bit, really. And then 2 out-and-out wingers left and right, a dedicated number 10 behind. A 1 central striker up top, and that's been really paying dividends for us so far this season. In terms of possession, we are very happy to let you have as much of the ball as you want, Ben. Really, one thing that's been amazing this season is how well we've managed to keep our shape, and that has been noticeably improved on last season. We're not getting drawn out of position. We'll let you pass it around amongst yourselves on the halfway line back to the keeper. You can recycle it as many times as you like. And where we've had success this season is I'm not saying we've bored opposition players to death necessarily, but we've kept our shape, and then eventually the opposition has to play a forward pass or play something a little bit more risky. We nick it away, and then quick as a flash, 3 or 4 passes. We are direct, but we're not route one by a long, long way. We get it forward quickly, but it's with pace and precision. So 3 or 4 passes, and we will be away. We'll try and stretch you wide left and right and get plenty of crosses into the box, hopefully to get those goals.
Okay, I mean, yeah, it sounds like that. I'm not opposed to direct football at all. I think a lot of people, when you hear the word direct, you think neck braces and all the rest of it as you're watching it continually lump forward. But if a team's passing it quickly forward, then it's. I think sometimes it can be really exciting to watch. So, yeah, it sounds like definitely an interesting game should be coming in on Saturday. Then, let's talk about your striker. Then, obviously, you've mentioned Michael Mellon there. He's a young lad that's, I think, 9 goals in the league so far this season. Sounds like he's really, hitting the ground running. And it's, well, with that being said, it's almost a silly question, but, have you found the immediate replacement for Cole Stockton, or is it going to be, is this kind of maybe a bit of form that's hit early because he's so young in his career, and you think it might just dip a little bit, or how's he looking?
He's looking really good. It's his second spell with us. He was with us last season. He came from Burnley on loan in the transfer window in January, and he was forming quite a good partnership with Cole actually for half a dozen games or so. We had a really good run at the end of January where it pulled us back into contention. At Christmas, we were, I'm not saying we were sunk without trace, but we were entrenched in the bottom four, and we had a decent run in the new year. And that was partly with Michael Mellon's partnership with Cole. He then dislocated his shoulder against Fleetwood about 7-8 games into his loan spell, and that was the end of that. He's come back this season for a full season. Burnley might recall him in January. I hope they don't, because he's not going to get the Burnley team in the Premier League. I wouldn't have thought. But he's a better. He's taller. He's a bit wider. He's a bit broader, a bit more streetwise, and he knows where the net is. He's one of these kind of forwards that if you give him the right service, he's going to put the ball into the back of the net. He's happy to play with his back to goal. He's happy to run onto the ball over the top. And if you see some of the goals he scored this season, some have been absolutely breathtakingly good. Lobs, drives into the bottom corner from the edge of the box. He got a hat trick just over a week ago to round our great win off against Wimbledon. So 10 for the season, and he's deserved every single one of them so far. So long may that continue. Whether it's a direct replacement for Cole, I'm not quite sure you can make that comparison, because I think they are slightly different players in that respect. But certainly in terms of filling the goal gap, if you will, then yeah, so far so good.
Excellent stuff. And obviously, you mentioned there with a lot of players going in the closed season due to the contract situation. Is there a sense of, maybe not panic, I guess, because you seem to be doing quite well, but is there a sense of unease at the minute about the ownership situation? Like you say, I know that's a saga that seems to be dragging on for quite a while now. Is there any end in sight to that, or how is it viewed internally? Are you guys sort of, well, I say internally, obviously within the fan base, how are you guys looking at things at the moment? Is there a good feeling of optimism around the club?
It's a really difficult one to answer that, Ben, because the saga's been dragging on for that long. And of course, what goes on in the inner sanctum of any football club, regardless of who you support, that's private business. And certainly when it comes to ownership takeovers, and when you're talking about multi-million-pound potential deals, it has to be confidential until it's signed on the dotted line. I suppose that's just the way it is, isn't it? We had one particular suitor who was undoubtedly the preferred bidder, but it became very quickly apparent that it didn't have the funds to complete the takeover, and it got to the point where the FA made or the EFL made a very unusual step of issuing a statement asking this particular company, I'll name it's Saab Capital, to actually provide them with the information that they asked for to get the deal done. The reality is that wasn't forthcoming. So the only conclusion you can obviously draw from that is that they didn't have the money. Were they chances, tire kickers? It looks like they were, yeah, because they haven't got the deal completed. I believe there are other offers on the table. I don't think a takeover is imminent, but I think we are relatively stable in terms of our finances. We've got quite an unusual model in the way the club is run, because the owner or the majority shareholder, who's a guy called Jason Whittingham from a company called Bond Group Investments, he owns about 3/4 of the club, but he's not a director of the club. He's not the chairman. He doesn't sit on the board or anything like that, and so he doesn't have any day-to-day say in how the club is run. But at the same time, the board of directors and the chief exec, who are all brilliant people, by the way, and they run the club amazingly well on a daily, weekly basis in often impossible circumstances, they haven't got that certainty of how much money's in the pot to play with. So the way they have to do things, it's quite an unusual situation at the moment. So we're in the state of play where we haven't got much money, but we're not in any debt either. So I think for a potential buyer, it could be a very tasty proposition, especially if we are continuing to do well in the league. It's certainly, hopefully, a good investment for somebody if we can find that right buyer, and hopefully that's sooner rather than later.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always that case, isn't it? If you're looking to get into buying a football club, you want to look at ones that don't have debt. Decent enough fan base and playing decent football. I think, you guys, while you're probably a smaller club in the grand scheme of things, I think, like you say, it's probably a decent opportunity for somebody. So,
well, we had a really unusual situation, Ben, where in our 2 seasons in League One, we made about £2 million profit across the 2 seasons, which is quite incredible, really. And we
Mm.
made a decent profit in the season that we got promoted. I think part of that was the COVID payments and so on. But
Yeah.
we made a nice profit for 3 years in a row, and all of that money got swallowed up by our owner recalling the loan that he gave to the club when he basically bailed us out from another potential rogue owner 4 or 5 years ago. And that money that he put in at the time, he then recalled. You might remember the sad tale of Worcester Warriors Rugby Club. It's the same business behind Worcester Warriors. So we were worried for a time, but all the profit that we made in the League One seasons has gone to repay the owner's loan, which is why we are solvent, but also we're not much money in the bank. It's a really, really unusual situation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's look ahead to Saturday then. Obviously, you guys say seemingly flying in the league at the minute. How do you see the game playing out? Have you got any possible predictions? Is there any Lincoln players that have caught your eye? I know you may not have eyes on it all the time, and with the separation in divisions. But is there anything that you've seen of Lincoln this season? You think, oh, I tell you what, that could be a tasty one on Saturday.
I think from our point of view, Ben, it's an opportunity to get ourselves reset. I'm not saying it's a free hit. I don't think there's going to be much between the 2 teams in terms of ability, despite the division golf in the one division. But given how poorly we played against Barrow in midweek, it was our first loss in 9. That was. We've had a bit of disruption with lots of suspensions and a few injuries to key players as well. They're coming back now, so I would imagine that we'll be using this game to sort of give ourselves a bit of a reset, give some players who have been suspended and on the injury comeback trail a bit of game time. So I'd imagine the 11 we'll play will be something akin to our full strength first choice 11. I'll be surprised if Derek Adams deviates from that at all. That's why I think we'll go with the 4-2-3-1 formation, and hopefully we can spring. Well, I suppose it'd be a minor upset, wouldn't it? League Two side beating League One. Hopefully we can capitalise on your managerial. Or lack of managerial situation at the moment. I know you've got 1 or 2 injuries, certainly in the final third as well, which might play into our hands. No Ben Howes and 1 or 2 others missing up top for yourselves. So hopefully we can take advantage.
Indeed, and there we go. If you are watching this, we've got we do have a little klaxon that we sound at the moment when we say we're missing strikers. So
Okay.
It wasn't myself that brought this up; it was Dave that did that tonight. So yeah, that's around 17 minutes into the video. So there we go. But we will wrap up as we usually do when it comes to the previews. Do you have a prediction for us, Dave? And of course, let us know.
Well, we've had some good third round ties in recent years. We went to Chelsea a few years ago in the COVID season, which was great, and we also went to Tottenham just as we were coming out of COVID properly in January 2022. Tottenham Hotspur Stadium's absolutely amazing, by the way, and we led Tottenham for over an hour. It was absolutely brilliant. I had to bring Harry Kane and Vinicius and others off the bench in the last 10 minutes to get over the line. It was a great occasion. So we're hungry for that again. A good cup run puts money in our coffers, which is going to be much needed. It could easily be our January transfer kitty if we get into the third round and get a plum draw, and that's why I think we're going to go strong, and that's why I'm going to go with Lincoln City 1, Morecambe 2.
Okay, well, strong one. I think it's probably going to be a reverse of the score. I think we'll probably. I'm pretty confident that we can bounce back from our own indifferent performance from Tuesday night, shall we say? And I think we could probably do it. But from what you've said, sounds like we're in for a hell of a game on Saturday, with plenty of attacking football to come from you guys. So
yeah, I think so, Ben. I'm looking forward to it. I've still got nightmares, to be honest, of last season. We played you in the league, and you beat us on the Saturday, and then we had to come back on the Tuesday night to play you in the EFL Trophy, and we lost that as well. So it was literally drive back to Morecambe, go to bed, have a day in Morecambe, go to bed again, and then come back to Lincoln. So I'm still having 1 or 2 nightmares about that, but hopefully we can get a better result this time. But we always have a great occasion when we come to Sincilbank. I think you're one of the friendliest clubs, and I'm not just saying that because I'm on your YouTube channel, Ben. I think you are one of the friendlier clubs in the EFL. We always get a great welcome, nice food, and nice view in the press box. So looking forward to the weekend.
Super stuff. Well, thank you ever so much, Dave, for joining us. And if you do have anything you want to plug, you can have the floor for 20, 30 seconds or so.
Well, if you want to hear a preview of the game, you can search the Shrimps Verdicts podcast. That's on all your platform providers, Spotify, Apple, Google. The current episode, you can skip over the highlights or the lowlights of the Barrow game on Tuesday. But later on in that podcast, I was talking to Gary from the Stacey West, having a good chat with Gaz about all things Lincoln and Morecambe ahead of the game. So a nice bit of a preview there if you fancy that, Shrimps Verdicts. And if you are lucky enough to be taken in the game online on Saturday, if you want to choose the away commentary, you will hear my voice. So if you want to put yourself under, give yourself a bit of pain that way, then you're more than welcome to do so.
No worries. Well, thanks ever so much for joining us, Dave. And if you're watching the video, please do make sure you get yourself subscribed to the channel. Drop us a like down below and leave us a comment, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.